I'm Hassan, and today Mike is hosting me, but I am the one who is announcing the program show. We are today live on a Radio Tipping Point and the Engaging Talks YouTube channel at the same time. We will talk about engaging communities and specifically what is missing in these communities. Hopefully, you will enjoy the show. And thanks, Michael, for having me.
The pleasure is all mine, Hassan. Thank you very much. And that was a wonderful intro. Good morning, all. Yes, you have entered the realm of Radio Tipping Point. And Hassan is joining us from Ankara today. So through the wonderful technology that's led to our disposal, that's what we were talking about prior. And I think that has everything to do with our subject matter and what we actually define communities to be. Certainly that would be part of it. But the first question that I would have for you, Hassan, is tied to this question of community and especially getting them involved and engaged. What brought you to this subject?
All right. Back in 2020, the thing happened, pandemic has happened, and I was working from home, and I felt like I stuck at home. And during my student time, also after I started working, I was always an active community member, uh, just where I live, or even online communities or some NGOs. I was always an active one, and I was uh, very motivated about getting more engagement in whichever community I was participating. But that thing happened, and I was looking for a way out to get back in those good days. And that time, like online stuff was booming. Uh, you remember Clubhouse was booming, that type of online streaming things. And I thought that that would be an opportunity for me to start a community myself, because there were no need to rent a venue, no need to spend lots of money on bringing people in a physical place. That's why I thought in Turkish yakınlaştıran konuşmalar, which is engaging talks in English, as an online community, starting from a YouTube channel, but not only limited to that. To start the community, I convinced 3 of my friends. One of them was historian, one of them was into literature, and one of them was into like traveling, movies, all from diverse backgrounds. I convinced them and I tried to motivate them, and also myself, to start an online community where each one of us have their own schedule and have their own people, and just stream online whenever they want. So I thought that would be better than a single person YouTube channel, because if an audience, I don't know, if I can't attract someone with my own content, maybe my friend can do that. So that is how it started in 2020.
Okay, now the question that everybody has in their mind right now, Hassan, is so we used a phrase, an engaged community member. How do you define that? What is an engaged community member from your perspective?
In the physical atmosphere, I was like, communities to thrive their life. They organize events, they organize some seminars, they organize meetings, but unfortunately, maybe most of the people, they just join to get something in return from that community event, like learn something, or I don't know, may has a specific target to meet with some specific person. but I was thinking communities should be more than that, like getting engaged before the event, during the event, after the event, getting to know those kind of people, and because everyone has a unique individual things, but also has a motivation to participate the specific community event. I think that is very important because no one doesn't forcing you to join that event. So it is very precious for me. So I was always trying to talk with people and try to keep in touch with them. So I think if we have this kind of mindset, we can make communities more strong, more sustainable, and I don't know, whatever the goal of the community was, but we can reach much more easily. Otherwise, it would be only just trying to receive something from that community, not giving anything.
Well, certainly there were a lot of important things that you said there, but one of them that that immediately became emergent is this idea of our uniqueness, because we all bring something unique to every conversation. If we allow ourselves the opportunity to let our uniqueness show, and we're not afraid that we might be criticized for our uniqueness, but that it's a serious problem, even today, tied to what took place in March 2020. I personally think that we haven't even started to get past this. One of the big issues that I have, regardless of whether we're talking about an online community or offline community, is that very often these communities that we build are like a bubble, because they're always the same people. You alluded earlier to the situation being a student in March of 2020 and finding this option for yourself. We're making an assumption that people feel comfortable with technology, that they have access to technology, that they find it useful, the technology. But there are a lot of people out there who are neglected. So what are your thoughts? How do we bring them on board, regardless of whether it's online or offline, into that feeling that they belong to our community? Question of identity to a certain degree. What are your thoughts on that?
Couple of days ago on LinkedIn, I saw a post, and it was very beautifully framed. It was actually about entrepreneurship, and she was saying that the price of entrepreneurship is embarrassment. I really like that, and I think we can apply that to everything, even like online or physical communities. Like we are showing up today online, and even like we are risking that, and even there would be some awkward moments that will stay on internet forever. We can't change that. So I think that is the price of doing that, and some people think that that price is very costly for them, but actually somehow we should motivate people, encourage people. And this actually does not matter, and this is how we learn to stand as a unique individual in online communities or like the physical one. We have to accept ourselves without trying to change anything. If we can make other people also believe that this price is nothing, and especially after 2020, all you have to have just like a smartphone or a laptop, so you can participate anything you would like to. This is a big one, I guess. Also, when I was trying to convince my friends to join my YouTube channel and became a creator there, they were very afraid of labeling themselves to something, or whoever they try to communicate, they invite as a speaker, and they were afraid that would be like, I don't know, labeling, etiquetting themselves on that specific issue. And as an individual in today's world, I feel like most of us are afraid of, I don't know, being a part of a community, standing up for something, for someone else. It doesn't have to be in your small circle. It can be happening anywhere in the world. We are afraid, but I don't know, we have to find ways to encourage people to stand up for themselves or for others, and the price is actually not that expensive.
To cover everything you just mentioned, Hassan, we would probably need about 10 shows because it was so important what you said. First of all, for those that are familiar with Radio Tipping Point, just as to make sure that we're on the up and up, and the intention of promoting transparency. I did not pay Hassan to say that because it was quite interesting. This show is all about empowerment. Empowerment being the prerequisite for us to actually create an inclusive environment, and only then can the social transformation take place. So I would be the absolute last person on this planet to disagree with what you said, Hassan. That was beautiful. And I think this question of, the second part of what you mentioned is very lamentable. I think that there was a time where we were able to give our opinion without fear that we would be put into a category, as you mentioned, without fear that it would be held against us, and even physically. I know enough people who have physical threats based upon that of what they say. And the inability for people to accept different ways of looking at things is that's truly the epidemic. We complained about COVID being an epidemic, but this inability to allow others to have a different opinion of others other than yours. Let's try some proper English, Mike. Is a very serious problem, and especially if we look at this from a community perspective, in a heterogeneous community. We're going to have people who have different opinions. They will have to overcome that of what you said, that they don't want to be labeled as being part of community X or community Y. And that's our real challenge, isn't it? How do we overcome that? Because we know that in reality, our community is heterogeneous, but we do not allow that to raise to the forefront. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, it is understandable and reasonable. Every community has a niche and target group of people, but still, I mean, we have to find ways to attract people who might have a voice or idea on that topic we are discussing as a community. Maybe not from us, from totally different perspective, but otherwise wouldn't be so, I don't know how to say that, like nonsense. I mean, we all believe the same thing, so that's why we always engage and we call this as a community, and there is no other opinion. I mean, everyone believes that, so why we don't need to gather as a community? We already know in our life whoever thinks like us. I mean, there is no such need to call this as a community. It is already naturally happening. So I feel like if you are a decision maker in a community, you have to find ways of inviting people from different opinions, and you have to gently convince your community members to listen and engage with that person. It is that person's responsibility. Otherwise, I mean, this is like those communities are like a comfort zone. Why you would need someone who talks against what you believe, what you think? It is like community members should be more acceptable for new thoughts, and also I think the important parts belongs to the community leaders, but also it is hard to balance, I believe, because if you want to be a community leader to your community, you have to show that you are all in the same side. You became the leader because you have that kind of social skills. You all believe the same thing, and you go through the pyramid and you became the leader. But once you became the leader, you have to, if you want to be open-minded, you have to risk your position to bring more different manage points to your community. If you want to keep your chair as a leader on that community, you wouldn't risk yourself, but I believe we all should do that.
Whoa. Thank you for that. Where do I start? I have a few questions tied to that. I think first off, we have the difference as far as leadership. We're talking about true leadership. We have the de facto leader, somebody who is leading, but maybe might not necessarily have a title, but it can be considered an influencer within the community, right? And then you would have the de jure, the legal leader, who could be, if it's an association, having some sort of position within the association. And if we look at it from these two perspectives, then it gets to be very interesting, because the influencer probably doesn't care too much about the title, could be different, but doesn't have the power because of the title. The influencer has the power because the influencer is how he or she is, right? And then getting to the point of feeling comfortable about your position within the community, because very possibly you don't feel comfortable. I know a good friend of mine, once he is recognized as being an unofficial leader, then he steps away. It's too much for him. So you don't always have to be there all the time, and very possibly you might decide that it's too much for you. But let's stay with this thought. So you've gained power within the community. That means that the community looks towards your guidance in some fashion. So there's a certain responsibility there, right? That you look at the well-being of everybody, and you understand that you have a certain power to bring the group out of their comfort zone sometimes. And that can be quite tricky. Have you had any experience yourself of trying to bring people out of that comfort zone in your interactions being within the communities?
Yeah, actually, I had that problem, and I don't know if I can call myself successfully managed to do that, but at least I can say that I tried. I was working in a youth NGO, and I tried to convince people for hearing other ideas, people's ideas that think and live differently. But it is very hard. They were like other people who have the influence, or who have who were the decision makers. They were saying that if we want to engage with those kind of people, or someone want to engage or someone want to listen those different ideas, for example, they can listen them in another community. We don't need to mix up communities. I mean, everyone, like, they don't say that, but they actually mean everyone have their own comfort zone in their community. So you don't need to bring chaos. I mean, you don't need to bring that level of inclusivity in our community. We are not canceling those people, those ideas, but if you want to listen them, you can participate events or seminars of another community. No need to bring them to here. I tried, but it was very challenging. I mean, as I said in your previous question, their community was very, how to say, focused on some like short-minded idea around those ideas, and I think the problem first, when we are trying to create a community, first thing we have to bring to table, and while we are creating and generating that community with other decision makers, our friends, we have to bring the first thing, there have to be inclusivity. Otherwise, I mean, you can have your own ideas, you can have your own thoughts, but still at the core, there should be that idea. Then still you can, if you want, impose your ideas, or you can share your ideas with other people. But if it is not one of your core value, I am afraid someone, even who is very brave, can't change that easily.
Well, certainly it's not easy. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive. Two thoughts immediately came to mind while you were elaborating there, Hassan. The first one is this safe space, because within a community, one of the key components that you feel safe there because you're with people that you're familiar with, perhaps maybe the subject matter or the values. Going back to what you were talking about with values, that would be one. And they're not completely joined at the hip, but they're very close. The security on the one side, and also the identity, where you identify yourself. And I would say that both of them are very strong components of a community. But let's stay with that reaction you got. They said, well, if you want to hear another opinion, why don't you go to the other community? That's what I understood. But the fact is that it wouldn't be a safe space, and you would lose that identity part as well by going to another group, because otherwise there's a danger that you have some sort of internal conflict. You consider yourself to be part of community A, but you feel compelled to go to community B to get a different opinion. I don't see how that one is really feasible. I think that for those people who feel that you just go to another group, they're missing the whole point of why you are a community, aren't they?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, there have to be like a niche about your community, but it shouldn't be too narrow-minded. I mean, otherwise it can go like, even the worst scenario is going radicalism in anything. You have to be much more open. Then you can discuss other stuff with your members. And also, it is funny. I mean, I believe naturally everyone wants to grow their own community, and the only way to do that is open your doors for others, right? So you have to feel everyone somehow welcomed in your community. And only way to do that is being respectful and open to other ideas, other people. Otherwise, I mean, you can be a very small group of people proud of what you do, but you don't have any presence in the bigger communities, in the actual community we live in our daily life. You are just maybe 100 people believe in something very crazily, and you are totally closed for other ideas. I don't know. It is a shame to call them even as a community. They are like very oriented about something, and I don't know. It is sad.
Mia, in most areas that I'm familiar with, I feel that there are two big dividers that we have within our society. The first one are those people living in cities and those people living on the countryside. There's a big gap between the two. Using Austria as an example, the smaller towns are dying. They're dying because young people are moving away because they see no opportunity within these smaller towns, and then it becomes a vicious cycle, right? Because more young people are leaving these small communities. That means makes it more difficult for the existing shops to find people to work in them, or to have people actually patronize them. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's a very serious problem here. And I don't think it's unique to Austria. And then the other one is education, where those people who are blessed to have a tertiary education, like us, are, on the one hand, we're looked up upon as having an advantage in our society and have more knowledge, because those people who did not have that opportunity, they feel inferior. And then it turns around and they say, aha, but you are a privileged person, and so we don't accept when you're not able to deliver what we think you should be delivering. All of these are components of a larger community that we have within our society. Have you run across those scenarios yourself? We talked a little bit before the show started about the difficulty in allowing for people rural to participate in some of these activities that we have. What are your thoughts on that?
The situation, as you said, not unique to Austria. It's same in Turkey as well. And actually, this online stuff gives much more equality for people who lives in countryside. But the problem is, as you said, like if you have more higher level of education, somehow you are more eager to learn, participate, and in most of the scenario that doesn't come from your DNA. You learn that mainly in maybe high school or universities, like lifelong learning. So you always try to find new ways wherever you go. Maybe you was born in Vienna, then you have to go and work in a village, but somehow you try to find something in that village. If you can't find, you go for online, and maybe you start one. This is how you think. But I'm not saying in countryside people don't think that way, but it is, I don't know, more common in bigger cities. For countryside, somehow, also it is our fault, because we have to make it more attractive to join something, even it is online, and we have to bring more people from countryside, because it is a very equal opportunity. Now, it would be better if I was sitting next to you in that radio host, but still we can manage this happening. So everyone can do that. Why not? I mean, only like we have to think that this price is not too much. You can risk it. I mean, it would be funny. I mean, whatever we have to lose. I mean, what are we risking? And so maybe one solution would be like sometimes we could find ways to go countryside and make like in-person events in venues like face-to-face. Once we can make participants believe in some common values, and we can encourage them to start something themselves or participate online stuff more. Like if we can keep it more hybrid, we can reach out to more people, I believe. What do you think about this?
I think a lot about everything you said. First off, let's look at this question of what we can learn from each other, because that is also part of lifelong learning. If we are open and without any expectations, no expectations, and you go to an area, and I'm just hypothesizing a little bit, and instead of saying, this is what I believe, don't say anything and just observe and watch how people do things. Because there are certain rituals that we have, and I think you would have to be there physically. You wouldn't be able to manage this online, or it would be very difficult. Listen, you can do it, but it would be very difficult. And you observe how they do things. And let's assume that there's something that takes place within that observation, that you see some sort of commonality to the way that you do things or the way you look at things. And maybe they might do something, and it has something to do with the tradition that you have, but they do it different, and it comes to the same result. And then you think, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize you can do that, right? And I'm thinking at that point in time, then it's possible to then start the dialogue and say, hey, that was really interesting how you did that. Can you explain more of what that's about? Following that story, what are we actually doing? We are not telling people what they should believe, because that's a big danger, right? Especially with communities who are very convinced about the message and their values. We get rid of the bias because we don't automatically assume, and this has everything to do with your story, Hassan, about trying to bring other people together and say, oh, go visit them. That very often we think they have different values, but we never test that, right? We don't test whether they have different values. We just make an assumption. It's the so-called constitutive other, because I am the way I am because you are the way you are. It's drawing clear lines, right? So we need to overcome that, right? We need to figure out ways to overcome it. And the only way I could think that works properly is to be first observant and just listen to people and observe what they do, and show a true interest in them as people and the way that they do things. And I think once you've developed the trust, then there's a much better chance of you being able to build bridges to different communities, that you will not be seen as being a threat. You almost take on this forum as like an ambassador to two groups, and maybe even a translator from the way things are done in Group A and Group B. So now I'm going to toss it back to you. What are your thoughts?
I didn't like the word as translator between communities. As you said, I mean, maybe if the result is same, if they succeed in whatever they want to, but in a different way, we shouldn't be arrogant. You are totally right. I believe in that, and we shouldn't be. That was my fault. I was like, we have the, like, I don't know, more open mindset or like more knowledge. So I didn't mean that, but it was like, let's take advantage of this
I didn't interpret
information
that
in
way.
big cities.
No, sorry, I stepped in your words, but I wanted to make sure that I did not read that into what you were saying at all, at all. Yeah, sorry, no, I just read your flow. So apologies for that.
No. Okay. That was my understanding. Okay, then even in like where I live, or if I think this is a huge opportunity. I mean, uh, even if you go to a community only to achieve something, like, I don't know, whatever you want to receive as a maybe, like, gently say, gift from after participating, engaging that community, it can why we limit ourselves only to that community? I mean, there is nothing wrong getting engaged in more than couple of communities who totally think different. And uh, I'm talking as an individual. I mean, I am not a translator between communities. I, as an individual person, I can somehow should understand and translate between those different ideas, communities, to expand my horizon, right? If I can do that, and if I am getting more involved in communities, I can voluntarily do that between communities too. But first, somehow, I have to be more open. Then hopefully I can do that between communities as well. And going back to like the uh, thing between big cities and countryside, um, I don't know. I mean, there are also opportunities. Like, I see there are many successful stories in Turkey. They come from smaller parts of Turkey, and they became like first regional, then from all around the nation, all around the country. Um, I don't know, whatever they need. Maybe if we think about online communities, there is no uh, maybe cost, like at least a huge cost to do that, to make your community like nationwide or even more international one. Maybe uh, like big community leaders can uh, like give confidence other people to start their own thing, whatever they believe. It doesn't have to be around that big communities. Even they don't get the enough audience, they can keep continuing, and somehow they can be successful. We shouldn't rate success with like the numbers of the community. I don't know. It's a huge topic.
No, and I agree. But I do have to disagree with you on one point.
Mhm.
You are already a translator. Why do I say that? Because, first of all, we are speaking in a language which is not your mother tongue, that you not only hold the proficiency to hold that conversation, but we know what it's like when we speak different languages, that we perhaps even take on a different persona. At least that's been my personal experience, that we maybe even take on some of the rituals that are very much tied to that language, which would be very different than our own. And for somebody who does not have that experience, then of course they're not going to understand that. So here I'm going on a limb, and I'm going to say, dearest Hassan, you are a translator because you are doing that. And I'm sure you're doing it. And I'm not standing over your shoulder and watching what you're doing in Ankara, but I bet you're doing that. The people will come up with some funny idea about the way things are, and you know better. And you will not go ahead and tell them, oh, but you're wrong and this, that, and the other thing. But you will explain them in a kind and caring way that this is what they actually mean. And then you will try to figure out a way to translate that into your own culture. Or am I totally off base here?
Thank you so much. Hopefully, I can do that. I am trying, but um, yeah, at least I'm trying. I can say that, and I feel like we should encourage more people to do that in their even just a regular daily life. I mean, it doesn't have to be a part of something bigger, a community in our daily life, at our offices, in a park, maybe whatever we hear or in the news, on social media, we have to somehow translate that. I'm not saying we should accept everything as a threat, but we have to filter. But those filters should be based on common values. Like it shouldn't feel bad anyone. I mean, you or anyone else. So somehow we can feel that we can find more people whoever see the things in that translator way of looking things, and uh, we can encourage those people to participate more in bigger communities, or just influence from their personal life, or start their own community. That kind of people can I don't know, create better communities which have like great some core values. Otherwise, like sick-minded people, whenever they want to influence others, we still call themselves as a community, but actually their starting point is totally wrong.
And certainly, if you have enough faith in yourself and in your core beliefs, then in essence, the others can never really be a threat. But we know that we're unfortunately very far away from that. I would be curious, based on what you just mentioned about encouraging others to maybe take more of, I'm using my words, to take a little bit more of a leadership role, but not necessarily in a de jure way, but in just in the way that we act being a leader. How would you approach that? I'd be really curious. How would you, maybe if you can tell us in the form of a narrative, how you would approach somebody and try to encourage them to take more of an open position?
I can give some examples from my LinkedIn connections. Whenever I see someone, for example, they post about something, they have been to an event, and if they share their ideas, like their enthusiasm about the community, about the thing that happened, I always look in a positive way. I am not thinking like, oh, they are trying to being an influencer on LinkedIn. I believe everyone, they are really sincere and they are frank on what they share. And sometimes I just send them direct message, and if I know some people in that field, I lead them to that communities, and I say that, hello, this community would be interesting for you, and I feel I have a sense you may enjoy showing up your social skills, so your leadership skills in that community, and then I don't know, maybe we don't keep the communication, but after years, I see somehow that person and the one I lead make successful projects together, or maybe not together, but I can see that it leads them to make some much more impactful things in their personal lives. And thanks to LinkedIn, it shows like whoever you have common connections. So you see that it is somehow happening, but I think this someone should start encouraging them even with that simple direct message, because many times whenever send a message they say that, oh, I didn't know that it was just a, for example, basic LinkedIn post. I was not thinking that is attracting someone. That was my wish, but it was hard to see, especially if it comes from a totally stranger like me. I think it encourages people more, because your friends always likes your posts. I mean, whatever you share. But if it comes from a stranger, it really shows that someone believes of what you say, what you do, and see the potential of you.
Yeah, not only that of what you mentioned, but the ability to give somebody a compliment, not expecting anything in return, understanding that it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything, maybe cost you 30 seconds to go ahead and write a post if you're going slow, maybe even 15 seconds. And if they don't respond, said, well, all you could do is try, right? And it's almost, if I can come up with another analogy, and again, this has everything to do with communities, concentrating maybe in this particular example on the offline community, or the city we live in, or the neighborhood we live in. The ability to just talk to somebody you don't know and say, oh, that was really interesting, whatever it may be. Can you tell me how you did that? Or I really like the way that you had a conversation with somebody else, or whatever it may be. Something, not that, well, obviously for them it's important. Can you imagine what kind of world we would have if we had people willing to take that risk, where in essence there's no risk? What if they don't like it? I mean, if they're not going to push you away, they'll probably think it's a little bit strange and they won't know how to react. But that's actually their problem. It's not yours, right? That's their problem. They don't know how to react to getting a compliment. But what kind of world would we have if we were able to get people to do that? That would be a fantastic world, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That is a very important social skill. I feel like I almost lack of that. I mean, in daily life or on LinkedIn, whenever I see something nice, I mean, I don't know. I feel shy to say that out loudly. I mean, I feel that, oh, that is nice. I mean, for example, if I see someone as a student, or someone who has like 30 years of professional life but still start something new, like creating content online, whatever they do, I feel like, oh, wow. But I don't know. I mean, I try to encourage myself to say something, maybe not, if I feel too shy, maybe not as a comment, but I try to send direct message, and it really makes people good. Also, it has something in return, like you also feel good because you made someone's day, because maybe many people like you enjoyed what they did, but they couldn't find encourage to say that to that person. Also, I feel like this applies to bad things as well. I mean, somehow we have to find encourage to say if something is wrong in a nice and gentle way, because if you don't say that, um, that things can spread, and he or she can normalize that. It's like it's not offending anyone, so I can keep doing that. I think it goes both way. We should be more open to communication, uh, to celebrate on good things, and also kindly saying this might hurt someone else feeling.
And I think the key there, what you just mentioned at the closing, Hassan, has everything to do with not making the comments directly towards the individual. I still think you are important, but this type of behavior causes these types of reactions. And just making them aware and making sure that they understand is you still care about them as individuals, but you have a problem with this attitude because it affects you or affects somebody you care about. Yeah, that's very, very important. I see this is the advantage of doing the live stream, that I don't have to turn around every 30 seconds to see how much time we have. I see that we have about 6 minutes left, and I want to give you an opportunity to maybe focus on some things that we haven't talked about so far. And especially if you can cover the concept of, in that ideal world, what would that constellation of communities look like, and what would you like to do next to help make that a reality?
Well,
and you have 6 minutes. Go.
okay. I think, yeah, it's a huge responsibility, and to get that over my shoulder, I want to say it is even a small portion, but it's everyone's responsibility to make that ideal scenario happening. Whatever you feel you are good at, that maybe you are good at like giving a speech and you don't feel shy on creating content online, you can start there. Or if I don't know, it can be in just a daily life, you can start thinking and spreading what you believe, and but please try to be like conscious if that is a common moral value or not. If it doesn't hurt anyone, just don't feel shy to share with others. Then you will see some people are gathering around you, and once you feel that it is the moment, that was for me like 2020, because I didn't need to rent a venue, I didn't need to spend lots of money. All I need to just sign up for a YouTube channel. Maybe it didn't succeed as much as I want, but still it led me a beautiful conversation with you today on your radio show. So I feel like without feeling any shyness, we should start. And or if you don't feel that courage yet, we should find some more like people with more social skills around ourselves. We have to find them, and now it is much more easy. I mentioned a lot LinkedIn, but it can be on other social platforms or on daily life as well. And maybe you can encourage them to start something, and you can just help them. You don't have to show your face, but if you believe in something beautiful, and if you feel that that can have a beautiful impact on others as well, just go with that, and maybe by years it can turn out to be much bigger than a much bigger thing that you were not even imagining.
You mentioned that you found your initiative not to be as successful as you were hoping.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would do if you can turn the clock back, or is there anything you can do today? Actually, I think regret brings no value, and you already saw the added value of starting it, because that means you found new people to talk the subject about. But there has to be some sort of lessons learned for you in your approach and in where it's taken you. And I know I'm not giving you much time to answer this one, but what would be the impetus you would have today based upon that, of what you learned, and perhaps something you would like to do today or tomorrow or in the next week, based upon that of what you already went through?
Internet is very fast paced. I mean, trending topics can change easily. That was a main discourage for me to keep creating content on my YouTube channel, because I was trying to reach out people whom I believe their ideas would be interesting for others. But sometimes, I mean, I was not even getting a no answer. But now I feel like the trending topics does not matter on online or in our daily life. It changes very quickly. If you believe that you are good at something, it can be a hobby, or if you feel that you are you want to stick with a moral value or an idea around you want to talk, you shouldn't limit yourself with trending topics. You should keep going that. Maybe even that was not a huge thing at that moment. You can be the leader of that topic. You can make that topic known widely from many people. You could be that person. It doesn't have to be very popular at that moment. Because I am saying that because this was very discouraging for me, but now I understand actually it is not that important.
And in fact, my takeaway here in the last 20 some odd seconds is that the relying upon your own uniqueness, it ends up being the driver, and not to expect anything more than that, and just be the way you are. And I'm very thankful, Hassan, that you are the way you are. I'd like to thank all of our listeners today. And we will be back next week with another edition of Radio Tipping Point. Thank you very much.